CEO Quan didn't accept it because Seo Ju-hien just stole the relic. Then a notification window appeared in front of Seo Ju-hien that his skills had been improved, but Seo Ju-hien still looked annoyed with the crow. Seo Ju-hien also tried to analyze the relic he got from CEO Quan previously. It turned out that the relic was an SS-tier relic, or what is usually called a God-tier relic. But because Seo Ju-hien's strength is still weak now, he can't do anything with the relic. CEO Quan, who is angry, uses another relic he has, namely the Conqueror's Relic. This relic has the ability to make people around him submit and obey all his orders. This relic is a parasitic type relic. Seo Ju-hien doesn't know where he hid this relic because CEO Quan doesn't want to tell him. Seo Ju-hien gritted his teeth. He wanted to cut off his arms and legs, but Seo Ju-hien couldn't do it because CEO Quan had a relic with an armor type. CEO Quan became confident now, while Seo Ju-hien was still thinking about what he should do in the current situation. However, because the relic used by CEO Quan was tied to someone else's consciousness, if CEO Quan started using power, then this place would fall into chaos. Seo Ju-hien is still thinking about how to deal with the power of CEO Quan. Now CEO Quan doesn't mind if everyone in this place knows about his relic, and just before CEO Quan uses his power, a voice is heard from the relic which surprised them both. It turned out that the sound came from the crow that Seo Ju-hien met before. He said that this place was the place where the jackal dogs slept, and they would only wake the dogs up by fighting in this place. Seo Ju-hien then thought that this place was the place where the god of death, Anubis, slept, and if so, then this place was a tomb that had an Anubis relic in it. But CEO Quan, who didn't know about it, instead increased the intensity of the power, made a terrible sound heard by them, and an earthquake was felt by everyone there. Seo Ju-hien, who saw the many warning windows in front of him, was shocked when he read it. The window warned Seo Ju-hien that he had been affected by a deadly aura and caused his relic to be damaged. Seo Ju-hien looked out the airport window and saw an orange light. This light is a sign of the occurrence of the Great Catastrophe. Just like before, this airport will split and several ancient Egyptian structures will begin to emerge from the ground. The airport itself will turn into a very large ancient Egyptian tomb. This great catastrophe will cause several places to be affected. A notification window will appear in front of him again if ancient Egyptian tombs will appear in all corners of the world. Seo Ju-hien himself is confused about what he will do now, as is Oh Soon-woo. Seo Ju-hien then blames CEO Quan for making this place a dangerous place. They had no choice but to complete this tomb, but Seo Ju-hien knew that completing this tomb was not an easy thing to do. In the past, a tomb created by a great catastrophe took 3 months to complete. Seo Ju-hien then invited his subordinates to follow him before CEO Quan stopped them with his power. Seo Ju-hien still couldn't understand what was going on in CEO Quan's brain now. He said he would kill Seo Ju-hien and his subordinates even though a tomb had trapped them. A moment later, CEO Quan used his power to make Seo Ju-hien and his subordinates submit. Seo Ju-hien, who was now affected by the strong power of CEO Quan, couldn't do anything. CEO Quan approached Seo Ju-hien. Before Oh Soon-woo said to Seo Ju-hien, making CEO Quan surprised because they could still speak with full consciousness even though CEO Quan had used his powers. And a voice again shocked Seo Ju-hien and CEO Quan. When they looked up, they saw a dog scolding them, and immediately Seo Ju-hien was able to free himself because CEO Quan's power started weakened after the arrival of the white dog. The white dog was named Set, a relic with a god-tier rank. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Set was one of the 9 main gods. he was the god of desert, darkness, chaos, and evil. That's why this relic has terrible and evil powers. This relic is famous for destroying the lives of all users who have this relic. Then another voice was heard. The voice came from a black dog with a gold necklace around its neck. Co Juhian, who looked at the second dog, knew who it really was. The black dog is Anubis, and the necklace he wears is Osiris. Osiris is also one of the 9 main gods. He is the god of fertility and afterlife, while Anubis is the god of death. He is the god who guides the dead to afterlife. Co Juhian still couldn't believe what he saw. The appearance of 3 god-tier relics above him now made him even more convinced that in his previous life, his life was full of lots of tombs. The 2 dogs seemed to be discussing what trial they would give them all. They both seemed to be arguing about something while Co Juhian looked at the notification window in front of him. Co Juhian's immunity skill increased drastically due to the aura released by the divine dog. Set then increased the intensity of his aura and would be the first to give them a trial. He said he would suppress them with the power he had. Co Juhian had no choice but to do whatever he could to survive now. What will happen to them all? And why does Osiris appear in the form of a necklace worn by Anubis? As soon as the Set relic began to attack them, the other dogs also attacked at the same time, causing a terrible aura to envelop them all. Everyone in the radius of the aura could not contain the aura emitted from the dogs. Co Juhian could only see the people in pain. Even CEO Quan couldn't resist the aura that was continuously being released. Meanwhile, Co Juhian ordered his subordinates to leave. Oh, Sung-woo was unfazed by this terrifying aura because Co Juhian said that they were useless in the eyes of the relic and could leave the area. After being ordered by Co Juhian, they immediately left the place. Meanwhile, CEO Quan, who saw that Co Juhian was fine, felt annoyed, and Co Juhian responded by mocking CEO Quan's strength, which succeeded in making him angry. Not only CEO Quan, the dogs also didn't understand why Co Juhian was fine after being exposed to the terrifying aura emitted by them. And when they saw Co Juhian take out the relic, the Code of Hammurabi, the dog was just mocking him because the tier of the relic used by Co Juhian was far below theirs. The angry Set increased the intensity of his aura and attacked Co Juhian, and as soon as the attack hit Co Juhian, the relic, the Code of Hammurabi, reflected Set's attack and made him scream in pain from his own attack. Co Juhian seemed satisfied because his attack could injure the god-tier relic. Anubis also advised Set to attack him using the skills they had, but Set rejected Anubis' suggestion because it would reduce their lifespan. And Set, who smelled the crow's scent on Co Juhian, made him even angrier. Osiris, who heard it, confirmed that Set's sense of smell was fine because the crow had been sealed, but Set, who didn't accept it, was angry with Osiris because he had underestimated the ability of his sense of smell. Co Juhian is curious why they didn't fight each other from the start, because Set and Osiris often fight when they are together in one place. In ancient Egyptian mythology, it is said that if Set committed an abominable act, Set was jealous of his brother Osiris and ended up killing him. And because of this history, relics were created that had different personalities from each other. Co Juhian tried to take the opportunity to attack them while they were fighting each other. Anubis, who sensed Co Juhian's intentions, told Set and Osiris to calm down, but it didn't seem to work. Likewise, Co Juhian chose to challenge Anubis first, and Anubis also moved Co Juhian with his power to another dimension. Co Juhian fell from a high place into a bottomless abyss. Anubis apparently moved Seoju Hien to his dimension to give him a trial, and after a few moments Seoju Hien fell and landed on a golden scale with Anubis showing his true form as the god of death in front of him. Seoju Hien is now on the scales of court, and Anubis will start to try Seoju Hien now. Seoju Hien, who knows that this is Anubis' trump card, he is happy because if he succeeds in passing this trial, then Anubis' relic will be his. Anubis appeared to be standing proudly in front of Seoju Hien, who was confident that he would be able to pass the trial given by Anubis, because in his previous life Seoju Hien had met the user of the Anubis relic. He said that in the trial given, the Anubis relic would ask several questions, and all he had to do was answer no to each question that Anubis would give. The user did not clearly remember what questions Anubis would give, but he said that if the questions were given very easily. Seoju Hien then thought that if the question was so easy that even a small child could answer it, then there was no need for Seoju Hien to worry. As soon as Seoju Hien looked up, there were several people wearing black robes. They were the jury who would try Seoju Hien. Then Anubis said that he would ask 42 questions. If Seoju Hien is able to say no to every question, then he will pass the trial given. But if Seoju Hien feels guilty, then a monster from the dark will attack him. Anubis said his first question to Seoju Hien: did he commit theft? Just with the first question, Seoju Hien couldn't say no, making Anubis laugh knowing that. And with the second question, has he ever lied before? Seoju Hien also couldn't say no because he had lied to someone so many times. The next question again, Anubis said to Judge Seoju Hien. Now Seoju Hien realized that it was not an easy question for the little boy to answer, but because the little boy had not committed all the sins that Anubis was asking him now. And because Seoju Hien couldn't answer no to the questions Anubis gave, Anubis immediately took Seoju Hien in his hands and was about to give him to the monster under his feet. After that, Anubis just dropped Seoju Hien's body right into the monster's mouth. Seoju Hien could only surrender now because he couldn't do anything. Seoju Hien's body fell. And now he is in a place full of sand. He is sure that he is now inside the monster that ate him earlier. But as soon as Seoju Hien tries to get up from the sand, he is greeted by several monsters that look like an evil spirit in his presence, before his eyes. Seoju Hien had no choice but to fight them with the bones he found there. The evil spirits attacked Seoju Hien simultaneously, but Seoju Hien was able to fight the evil spirits with the bones as weapons in his hands. Seoju Hien continues to fight them by using the bones as a weapon, but because there are too many, Seoju Hien is a little overwhelmed to fight them all. But again, when Seoju Hien is in a state of urgency, he heard a voice calling him, and immediately the sound was heard. All the evil spirits around Seoju Hien were now blown away. This also made the other evil spirits only able to see the attack from afar. Whose voice is Seoju Hien actually hearing now? And what is the fate of Seoju Hien? Will he be able to get out safely from Anubis' trial? A blue crow appeared in front of Seoju Hien. It was the crow that helped Seoju Hien just when he was helpless against the evil spirit, and now Seoju Hien rose from the ground facing the crow that gave off the light. The crow greeted Seoju Hien with its eyes shining brightly. Seoju Hien looked confused when he heard the crow speak, as if he had done the same thing over and over again. The crow just laughed and didn't care about what Seoju Hien said earlier. Then Seoju Hien looked to the side. There were still many evil spirits standing there. It looked like the evil spirits would continue to attack Seoju Hien. The crow also offered his help to Seoju Hyun to get out of this place. Seoju Hyun didn't know why the crow helped him again when he was in a desperate situation like this. But Seoju Hyun just obeyed the crow and accepted the crow's offer to help him get out of here. Immediately, the crow released a blue aura that enveloped the place along with the light from its body, which was so dazzling that Seoju Hyun had to close his eyes. Meanwhile, in another place, the dogs were seen still watching a large black ball. Set, who saw the black ball crack, didn't know what really happened in there, but Osiris knew for sure what made Anubis dimension crack. Anubis dimension had been forcibly damaged from within, making Set not believe in it because it was impossible for a human to do that. But Set's shock had to be paid for with his own eyes when he saw that Anubis dimension had been shattered into pieces before his eyes. Set knew that the power that could destroy Anubis dimension was the power of the sun god Ra. Set, who had been suspicious of crows before, has now paid off with the appearance of Seoju Hyun along with the crow they really hate. Meanwhile, Anubis is not in a good condition because of the crow's treatment. Set was sure that he saw for himself that the crow had been sealed, because it had helped humans fight all the relics and absorb the power of the relic, while Seoju Hyun, who heard it, tried to confirm this to the crow, but the crow chose to remain silent. A voice came from Osiris asking Set to combine his powers to attack the crow and report this to the other relics. A very strong pressure centered on Set, who used his power to attack Seoju Hyun. The ground and buildings around them began to collapse because of Set's immense power. Not only that, undead began to emerge from the ground thanks to the power of Osiris, but what really worried Seoju Hyun was the evil spirits that appeared all over the world. The crow said that he couldn't help Seoju Hyun anymore now. The crow was impressed with Seoju Hyun, who was not afraid at all, and instead smiled with the Muramasa relic in his hand. Confidently, Seoju Hyun would defeat the god's relic. Seoju Hyun knew that his true form, the dog's relic, is in the tomb he is in now. And with a smile etched on his face, Seoju Hyun invaded the place where the undead gathered and intended to look for the true form of the three divine dogs. The courage of Seoju Hyun made the crow happy and impressed. Seoju Hyun began to attack the group of undead alone, armed with his Muramasa relic. Seoju Hyun slashed and destroyed all the undead he encountered while continuing to move to find the true form of the relic of the divine dogs. Seoju Hyun is seen bravely fighting all the undead there. Meanwhile, the three dogs who have now changed their form to their original form there. Look at Seoju Hyun, who is fighting with the undead and evil spirits. Anubis, who had just regained consciousness, tried to digest the current situation. Meanwhile, Set and Osiris continued to attack Seoju Hyun. Osiris also asked Set to add to the difficulties for Seoju Hyun. Several living corpses were seen there wrapped in a cloth to make them look like a large mummy with shining eyes. Seoju Hyun, who didn't know what he was seeing, avoided the attack thrown by the mummy, and when Seoju Hyun tried to slash the mummy with his sword stuck and was unable to penetrate the mummy's body. Seoju Hyun took out another relic from under his clothes, an ancient Egyptian relic sword. As soon as the relic was taken out, he spoke to Seoju Hyun that he could feel a familiar power and felt like he was in his hometown. Seoju Hyun took out the relic knife of an Egyptian mortician. The relic felt the power of Anubis and felt stronger now. Seoju Hyun then asked the relic to track Anubis and started walking confidently, looking at everyone mummy in front of him. Set, who was in one of the mummy's bodies, felt stronger now, while Anubis, who had just regained consciousness, asked them about the situation. Set said that if the relic predator appeared again, that nickname was given to the crow who along with Seoju Hyun before. And just when Set said that he would report this, Seo Ju Hyun was right in front of him and slashed Set's mummy, making his head separate from his body. After Set's mummy was defeated by Seo Ju Hyun, the original form of the relic, the Set in the form of a white dog statue, appears in a state that has been split in two due to the slash made by Seo Ju Hyun previously. Anubis and Osiris were shocked when they saw that Set's relic had been split into two parts, while Osiris, who was not finished with his shock, had to receive another slash from Seo Ju Hyun, which also separated his head and revealed an Osiris relic that was shaped like an hourglass, which was split into two. Anubis, who was still shocked, had to receive a surprise attack from Seo Ju Hyun, but Anubis' relic was not immediately destroyed like Osiris and Set's. Seo Ju Hyun, who saw this, asked Anubis to open the trial again. But Anubis refused to open his trial again because the result would be the same. Seo Ju Hyun, who heard this, threatened Anubis to change his question so that Seo Ju Hyun could pass this time if Anubis didn't want to be crushed into pieces now. Will Anubis reopen his trial and change the questions? And what does Seo Ju Hyun really want from Anubis' trial? Anubis has no choice but to reopen the trial. Everything still looks the same. The only difference is that Anubis' form now looks dry and smaller than before. When Anubis was about to ask his question, his words were cut off by Seo Ju Hyun, who grabbed his neck and told him to ask the question that Seo Ju Hyun would give. As things turned out, it should have been Anubis who asked the question, but now Seo Ju Hyun was the one who asked him. Anubis, who didn't accept it, cursed Seo Ju Hyun in front of his face. But Seo Ju Hyun didn't care and tightened the stranglehold he gave Anubis. Anubis was stuck with Seo Ju Hyun, who was still trying to threaten Anubis, so that he obeyed. Anubis couldn't stop thinking, don't humans want relics? Then why does Seo Ju Hyun want to destroy them? But Seo Ju Hyun said that destroying Anubis is the last option if Anubis doesn't obey him. When Anubis asked his first question, Seo Ju Hyun kicked Anubis in the face, making the jury present there confused. Seo Ju Hyun told Anubis to ask him more politely, and Seo Ju Hyun answered him casually. Anubis doesn't know how long he will continue like this, and after some torture that Seo Ju Hyun did to Anubis, he managed to pass Anubis' trial by answering yes to all the questions given by Anubis, and because he used too much of his power, the Anubis relic now in a state of disrepair. After that, a notification window appeared informing that Seo Ju Hyun had successfully completed the tomb. Then the body of Seo Ju Hyun was moved back to his original world, with the Anubis relic in his hand. Because of his success in getting a god-tier relic, several skill windows appeared with an average of the level increase of the skills he got. Not only that, Seo Ju Hyun also got new titles such as Tomb Raider and Dishonest Tomb Raider. Then, using the power of the Anubis relic, Seo Ju Hyun closed the tomb that covered the airport. Immediately Seo Ju Hyun closed the tomb. All the structures related to the tomb slowly collapsed and were damaged. Meanwhile, CEO Kwon, who had just gotten up from the ground, looked at Seo Ju Hyun's back with a look of disbelief that Seo Ju Hyun had really completed the ancient Egyptian tomb and got all the relics inside. CEO Kwon, who saw this, became a little afraid of Seo Ju Hyun, and he intended that if he couldn't kill Seo Ju Hyun, then he would make Seo Ju Hyun his friend. A notification window appears again. This time, the window informs that the power that supports the tomb has been lost and means that all tombs related to ancient Egyptian tombs have been removed. Seo Ju Hyun intended to leave before CEO Kwon called him from behind. CEO Quan came to Seo Ju Hian and said kindly and politely to Seo Ju Hian now and apologized for what he had done. What he did to Seo Ju Hian. CEO Quan then stretched out his hand to invite Seo Ju Hian to work for him, but Seo Ju Hian didn't immediately believe CEO Quan's invitation because a few moments ago CEO Quan even tried to kill him. CEO Quan again praised Seo Ju Hian so that he would work for him, and with his current position CEO Quan promised to help Seo Ju Hian as much as he could. CEO Quan said that he needed someone like Seo Ju Hian to work with him, which succeeded in making Seo Ju Hian's expression change. Seo Ju Hian, who didn't want to believe what CEO Quan said, pointed his relic at CEO Quan, but unfortunately for CEO Quan, because Seo Ju Hian already knew all the evil tricks that CEO Quan would do for his sake, get the benefits by exploiting Seo Ju Hian. Seo Ju Hian, still with his relics, tried to corner CEO Quan. However, he still avoided it and said that now CEO Quan had many relics which made Seo Ju Hian have to work with him. CEO Quan is now inviting Seo Ju Hian to work together, which is mutually beneficial. Still, with several attractive offers, CEO Quan still hasn't given up on making Seo Ju Hian work for him. But before CEO Quan finished his words, Seo Ju Hian slashed CEO Quan's neck, causing his head to be separated from his body. Seo Ju Hian couldn't stand hearing the sweet words that came out of CEO Quan's mouth. Seo Ju Hian still remembers very well when the relic of the Bashniakia Rasica fell into the hands of CEO Quan, which made Seo Ju Hian have to work like a slave to cure his illness. You can see that CEO Quan's head, which had been separated, was reunited with his body and all his blood had returned to his body. The scar had healed instantly. This happened because of the relic that CEO Quan had. The relic, the body of Achilles dipped in the Styx River, a relic with god Tyr. Achilles is a warrior in Greek mythology. Achilles' mother was a sea goddess named Thetis, and his father was just an ordinary human named Peleus. Thetis wanted her child to be immortal just like she was a goddess, so she dipped Achilles into the river Styx by holding Achilles' heel, and with that Achilles gained strength and toughness of body, but the part of Achilles' heel that was not dipped became Achilles' only weakness. Achilles died because an arrow hit his heel, as well as the Achilles relic which was owned by CEO Quan. Seo Ju Hian was sure that CEO Quan also had CEO Quan's weakness, but he didn't know that part, where CEO Quan hides his weaknesses. Meanwhile, CEO Quan, who had fully recovered from the wounds he received, belittled Seo Ju Hian and still asked him to join CEO Quan. Seo Ju Hian just smiled at that, then he forced the Muramasa relic to exert all his strength. Seo Ju Hian prepared to attack CEO Quan with his Muramasa relic. Before attacking CEO Quan, Seo Ju Hian said that he would never want to join CEO Quan. Seo Ju Hian chose the Muramasa relic because the power of the relic will increase if used on a relic with a higher tier than the Muramasa relic. Seo Ju Hian then screamed while throwing his attack at CEO Quan. Even though CEO Quan did not die because of his immunity, he could still feel the pain he received from Seo Ju Hian's attack using the Muramasa relic. And after that, there was an explosion from the place where they were fighting now. Where did that explosion come from? And did Seo Ju Hian succeed in killing CEO Quan now? Seo Ju Hian slashed CEO Quan's body with all the power of his dominance, causing the Muramasa relic to be destroyed as soon as the attack landed on CEO Quan's body. CEO Quan, who was hit by Seo Ju Hian's attack, shouted. In pain, a red aura came out of CEO Quan's body. Seo Ju-hien had to close his eyes because of the dazzling light that came out of CEO Kwan's body. Seo Ju-hien, who didn't want to waste this opportunity, he used the Code of Hammurabi to reverse the effect he was receiving now from the aura belonging to CEO Kwan, after being able to reverse the impact he received from CEO Kwan. It can be seen that the Code of Hammurabi, is starting to crack and become damaged. The attack from the relic made CEO Kwan's body fall hard onto the ground. Seo Ju-hien was sure that CEO Kwan's Achilles and domination relics had been hit by the attack that Seo Ju-hien carried out previously. Seo Ju-hien walked up to CEO Kwan with the Muramasa relic, which had been completely damaged. Not only that, the Code of Hammurabi relic belonging to Seo Ju-hien was also damaged due to Seo Ju-hien's strong attack. Seo Ju-hien felt annoyed because after all the powerful attacks he had given to CEO Kwan, he still couldn't end the life of CEO Kwan. A voice was heard calling Seo Ju-hien from behind. The voice came from Oh Seung-woo, subordinate of Seo Ju-hien. They were shocked and asked what happened when they saw the body of CEO Kwan lying on the wall. Oh Seung-woo asked if Seo Ju-hien would kill him, but Seo Ju-hien said that he would not kill him and let CEO Kwan's body was in such a state. Seo Ju-hien left the place and invited his subordinates to buy food at a restaurant. All the buildings around looked destroyed. Large buildings were badly damaged, and some buildings even appeared to have collapsed. Meanwhile, in another place, the news anchor also conveyed the news about what actually happened and why the building collapsed. All the residents who were around the scene of the incident testified that many living corpses emerged from the ground. They also said that some were powerful, strange by using objects in the form of relics. Seo Ju-hien, who saw the news from a room with his subordinates, talked to him about relics. Oh Seung-woo, who didn't know anything about relics, was confused by what Seo Ju-hien was saying now before Seo Ju-hien shows the objects that are on the bed now. The relics began to complain in annoyance because Seo Ju-hien used them excessively and his body was almost damaged because of it. Oh Seung-woo, who saw the relics, was a little worried because the relics were almost damaged now. But Seo Ju-hien had a solution to the problem. He took out his cell phone and was about to call someone. Oh Seung-woo's expression immediately fell when Seo Ju-hien called Irene. While Irene from across the phone made a happy face because Seo Ju-hien called her, Seo Ju-hien then asked Irene for help to find someone, and Irene agreed to Seo Ju-hien's request and asked who is the person Seo Ju-hien is looking for. Yu Jiha, a specialist in restoring and repairing relics. All relics can be damaged if used excessively or because their durability has run out, but there are some relics that can restore and repair other relics, and those who can do this are called the restorers of relics. Yu Jiha is one of the people who is at the top of the rankings in that field. He monopolizes the relic market and earns him the nickname Fraud King. He is hired by CEO Kwan and is on the same team as Seo Ju-hien formerly. And if Seo Ju-hien can employ Yu Jiha now, then he doesn't need to worry about the relic being damaged. Seo Ju-hien and Oh Seung-woo were seen in a place with several people walking through the area. Oh Seung-woo asked who the person Seo Ju-hien was looking for and why Seo Ju-hien was looking for that person if Seo Ju-hien himself was very good at relics. But Seo Ju-hien said that he would improve relics require excellent knowledge of the art. And since Seo Ju-hien isn't good at it, he'll only get into trouble if he tries. That's why Seo Ju-hien was looking for Yu Jiha. A scream was heard accompanied by strong winds hitting them from a helicopter, which managed to make both Seo Ju-hien and Oh Seung-woo surprised and impressed to see him. And Irene appears with a smile as if getting off a helicopter on the grounds that traffic jams are not a big deal. Seo Ju-hyun and his subordinates still can't understand how rich Irene is that she has a private helicopter. Seo Ju-hyun then invited Irene and his subordinates to eat at a restaurant and talked about the person Seo Ju-hyun was looking for. But Irene, who listened to Seo Ju-hyun's explanation, didn't know who he meant. Seo Ju-hyun said whether Irene had someone who was in the arts field, and Irene also said that her brother was one of the people who worked in that field. Seo Ju-hyun showed Yoo Ji-ha a photo to Irene, and Irene's expression immediately changed when she saw Yoo Ji-ha's face. When Seo Ju-hyun asked Irene who looked like he knew Yoo Ji-ha, he was surprised because Irene said that Yoo Ji-ha had cheated on his brother a month ago. Irene remembered that person because he looked good, but it turned out that Yoo Ji-ha had cheated on his brother. Irene explained to Seo Ju-hyun about Yoo Ji-ha cheating on his brother, and Irene said that Yoo Ji-ha died in an accident. Seo Ju-hyun, who heard that, couldn't believe it because now Yoo Ji-ha should still be alive. Seo Ju-hyun then thought about whether the future had changed. In his previous life, the relic that appeared because of and caused the Great Catastrophe was an Indian relic, but now it is an Egyptian relic. Seo Ju-hyun doesn't want to believe that Yoo Ji-ha is dead and asks Irene to look for him together. Seo Ju-hyun knows that Yoo Ji-ha is not a weak person who can easily die. Then will Seo Ju-hyun and Irene be able to find traces of Yoo Ji-ha? Did Yoo Ji-ha really die in a car accident? In a hospital in an area, a TV channel is seen broadcasting news, and CEO Kwon is also seen with his whole body covered in bandages, looking annoyed because the existence of the relic he tried to hide has now been spread, thanks to Seo Ju-hyun did it. CEO Kwon was angry and promised to kill Seo Ju-hyun, but a voice distracted him. A person named Edward came in and sat next to CEO Kwon to talk about something that seemed important. Edward said that because CEO Kwon activated the tomb, all his clients were angry and did not accept it, and it was appropriate for CEO Kwon to fix the problem he created himself. Edward also asked why his body wasn't healing, when he found out that CEO Kwon had a relic that made him invulnerable. Hearing this, CEO Kwon was annoyed again and blamed Seo Ju-hyun for breaking the relic. Edward then said that CEO Kwon had to repair his damaged relic if he wanted to recover. Edward would give the contact of a relic restorer for CEO Kwon, and said that CEO Kwon had to keep collecting relics for Edward. After leaving CEO Kwon's room, Edward told his subordinates to look for information about Seo Ju-hyun. Meanwhile, in a place, someone with bright hair was seen who was upset because he got a call from someone while he was working. That person was Yoo Ji-ha. He was still alive and he got a call from Edward. Edward was a little surprised when Yoo Ji-ha answered the phone quickly. He knew that now Yoo Ji-ha was in need of money. Yoo Ji-ha said that he had deceived someone and made him have to fake his death. While Edward, who heard it, just laughed and mocked Yoo Ji-ha, who always failed to carry out his plans, causing him to have to fake his death. Yoo Ji-ha then asked what work Edward would give him, but when he heard the words relic restoration, Yoo Ji-ha didn't seem to like what he heard because repairing relics was very tiring according to him. But when Yoo Ji-ha heard he would be paid a huge amount, he looked surprised and happy to hear that. Yoo Ji-ha thanked Edward for giving him the opportunity to earn a lot of money. Returned with Seo Ju-hyun, who was in front of the art gallery with his subordinates. Seoju Hyun went inside. He was sure that Ujiha would not die so easily, and he met a receptionist who was there. The receptionist seemed surprised when Seoju Hyun suddenly asked about Ujiha now. The receptionist said that their CEO, Ujiha, was not in the office right now, but Oh Seung-woo, who couldn't control his emotions, couldn't accept what he heard and shouted at the receptionist. Seoju Hyun, who was next to him, was shocked and taught Oh Seung-woo a lesson by pulling his ear and saying that his goal here was to draw Ujiha out, and yelling at the receptionist was not the thing to do at this time. Seoju Hyun then apologized to the receptionist. The receptionist then said that their CEO was involved in a car accident which killed him. Seoju Hyun suddenly put his bag on the reception table, making the woman surprised. Seoju Hyun then pretended to be disappointed and sad, and opened his bag. Seoju Hyun acted very well, making the woman believe in the acting he was doing. And when the receptionist looked into the contents of Seoju's bag, he was surprised to see the number of relics there. Seoju Hyun was proud of his acting because he was able to make the woman believe in his acting. Seoju Hyun then continued his acting and asked the woman for help to repair her relic. Seoju Hyun said that it didn't have to be with Ujiha, he just wanted the relic repaired. And hearing those words, the receptionist asked permission to go to the toilet as Seoju Hyun had expected. Seoju Hyun knows the woman. Her name is Yoon Min-hee. She is Ujiha's assistant. Yoon Min-hee is just as greedy as Ujiha. He definitely doesn't want to miss the opportunity to get a relic with quality and rank. The good one belongs to Seoju Hyun. Seoju Hyun is increasingly convinced that Ujiha is still alive. Yoon Min-hee also contacted Ujiha about Seoju Hyun coming to his office, but Ujiha asked Yoon Min-hee to leave and refuse the relic. But Yoon Min-hee said that Seoju Hyun brought 10 relics, and among them there was a god-tier relic from ancient Egypt. Yoon Min-hee then said that Seoju Hyun and his subordinates were easy to deceive, and Ujiha agreed. He asked Yoon Min-hee to take the relic to his room, and their Ujiha would make a perfect replica and exchange it for the original. Yoon Min-hee then returned to Seoju Hyun and apologized to him for making him wait so long. Yoon Min-hee agreed to Seoju Hyun's request to repair the relic, and Seoju Hyun was only grateful. Yoon Min-hee said that he would take this relic to his repair room and repair it. Seoju Hyun only agreed with a fake innocent look. Oh Seung-woo tried to warn Seoju Hyun, but Seoju Hyun knew what he was doing and asked Oh Seung-woo to calm down. Yoon Min-hee handed over a paper containing the estimated repair costs for Seoju Hyun's relic and filled out the contract there. Seoju Hyun, still acting innocently, just obeyed what Yoon Min-hee said to him. Oh Seung-woo said that now Seoju Hyun had nothing because he had given everything. Seoju Hyun, who realized this, confirmed Oh Seung-woo's words. But Seoju Hyun is confident that his plan will work and Ujiha will take the bait he gives. Did Seoju Hyun's plan work as he hoped, or will he fail this time? All the relics belonging to Seoju Hyun are now on Ujiha's table. They both seem very happy with what he sees now. Yoon Min-hee is a little doubtful that Seoju Hyun will be easily fooled. But Ujiha assured that there was no need to worry, and he showed a relic in his hand. Ujiha walked to look for his relic, which was called the secret signature with tier B and Esper type. With that relic, Ujiha can make a copy of the relic he wants and steal the original. just by holding the original relic and using the relic, the secret signature, then Uchiha can make a copy not only of the outside, but also the appearance. Its function. This copycat relic has its own aura, and that makes a person unable to see the difference within 12 hours. But for Seoju Hien, this is not a big problem. Oh, Sungwoo, who saw the unreasonable price of the relic that was to be repaired, became annoyed, but Seoju Hien was not worried about that because he would not pay them. After a few moments of waiting, Yoon Minhee came back bringing the relic that had been repaired, exchanged for a clone. Yoon Minhee said that the relics were too damaged and could not be repaired. This immediately got a sharp look from Seoju Hien. As soon as he opened the bag, he threw all the relics right in front of Yoon Minhee. Yoon Minhee was shocked. Seoju Hien then got angry with Yoon Minhee. Seoju Hien knew that Yoon Minhee had exchanged his relic for a fake item. Seoju Hien then threatened Yoon Minhee, which immediately scared him, and admitted his mistake. Yoon Minhee was still looking for a defense, while Uchiha, who was eavesdropping from inside his room, panicked when Seoju Hien found out that the relic had been swapped, and before Uchiha could act, the door to his room had been forced open, leaving the body. Uchiha, who was right behind the door, was blown away and sat on the floor. Seoju Hien, who saw Uchiha there, immediately tied him with the rope relic he had, while Uchiha, who was still shocked, had to be bound by the rope relic. Seoju Hien then asked where his belongings were. Uchiha then admitted that his belongings were in the safe and asked Seoju Hien to release them, but Seoju Hien said that he would take the relic first. Uchiha was shocked again when Seoju Hien could easily find out the safe password and take the items inside. Uchiha still tried to free himself and said that Seoju Hien was deliberately trapping him. Seoju Hien didn't care about that, and after finishing taking all his belongings, Seoju Hien looked at Uchiha, who was still tied by the rope. The previous Uchiha was different from now. He used to live as a talented painter. He even went to a famous school in America to paint, but his art style was stolen by someone, and the person who stole it was his own teacher named Richard Chang. He became a famous painter with the style of art he stole. Uchiha, who tried to protest, didn't get anything. Because Uchiha wasn't famous yet, he was just labeled jealous of Richard's achievements and lost his career. He changed because of that. He started using his talents to deceive other people. That's when the forger relic came to him and helped him become a great con artist. Seoju Hien wanted to speak nicely to Uchiha, but looking at his current situation, Seoju Hien thought he wouldn't be able to do it in a normal way. Meanwhile, Uchiha continued to curse Seoju Hien and instead blamed the stupid Seoju Hien for being deceived by him. Seoju Hien started to lose his patience. Seoju Hien showed his relic to Uchiha, the relic of Shakespeare's childhood pen, which could allow the user to make anything he wrote come true. Uchiha panicked now. Seoju Hien wrote something using the relic, and received horrified looks from his subordinates who knew what Seoju Hien wrote. And after Seoju Hien finished writing it, Uchiha began to feel the effects of what Seoju Hien wrote using his relic. Uchiha screamed for mercy and was willing to do anything. Seoju Hien, who seeing that, just smiled. Seoju Hien also made an offer to Uchiha if he wanted to live. Uchiha, who had no other choice, signed his contract with Seoju Hien, even though Uchiha did not accept that he was enslaved by Uchiha. Seoju Hien. But Seoju Hien denies the word slavery and replaces it with exclusive contract. In that contract, Ujiha has no right to be paid for his services, and must come wherever Seo Ju-hyun tells him to. Not only that, Ujiha is also not allowed to accept requests from other people, and Ujiha is not allowed to ask anything that Seo Ju-hyun orders him to do. Ujiha became even more annoyed when he found out that the relic, the Code of Hammurabi, would retaliate against him if he didn't follow his agreement. Seo Ju-hyun's subordinates just looked at him with a look of pity because they also felt the same way. Seo Ju-hyun said that the contract wasn't too bad because he would still pay Ujiha, and Seo Ju-hyun would give a bonus every time Ujiha managed to repair his relic. Not only that, all the necessities of life and safety Ujiha will also be supported by Seo Ju-hyun. Seo Ju-hyun looked at Ujiha with a look of disbelief because he had taken issue with this very profitable contract. But it still made Ujiha annoyed because he didn't know whether Seo Ju-hyun was lying to him or not. No. Ujiha tried to run away. Seo Ju-hyun told Oh Soo-woo to catch him and asked him not to be too rude to Ujiha. Seo Ju-hyun thought that even though he made this agreement, he should still win the heart Ujiha so he could faithfully work for Seo Ju-hyun. Ujiha's footsteps were heard. He tried to call CEO Kwon. He then introduced himself that he was the person who would repair the relic belonging to CEO Kwon. Meanwhile, CEO Kwon was happy to hear that. Ujiha said that he was willing to repair the relic belonging to CEO Kwon. CEO Kwon was a little surprised to hear Ujiha's words. CEO Kwon smiled happily because he felt everything was going smoothly. CEO Kwon, too, will talk about the offer he will make to Ujiha, which manages to make Ujiha happy to hear it. What offer will CEO Kwon make to Ujiha? And will Seo Ju-hyun just keep quiet about this?